Welcome back to this week's episode of the Seatown Podcast, where Seattle business owners, entrepreneurs, and community leaders are invited on to share their stories with us. I'm your host, Christian Harris. As the owner of an indie real estate brokerage here in Seattle, I'm naturally interested in various communities around Seattle and what makes each of them so unique and distinct. And local businesses and organizations play a large part in shaping the flavor and character of the neighborhoods that we love so much. So join me as we talk with these fascinating people and explore their stories of why they started their businesses, run their nonprofits, or otherwise are making an impact in the Seattle area. Today I'm joined by Ian Weinberg, the owner of Ian Fitness. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yep, take a little time out of your busy schedule on this nice Seattle afternoon.
Absolutely.
So can you tell me a little bit about Ian Fitness, how you got started? I mean, I live here in West Seattle, and I obviously noticed your space here. I think it used to be a CrossFit, then it became Ian Fitness. So we got several locations. How did you get started?
Well, I don't know how far back you want me to go, but I'll tell you kind of the condensed version. So after college, I played soccer for a few years professionally. And I was always kind of the last guy to make the team, but the happiest guy to be there. Sure. You know, like, well, what do you guys mean you don't want to practice today? You know, I loved every moment of it and chased that dream for a long time. Never really made much money to speak of, but like I said, I had a great time and no regrets doing it. Sure. Throughout that process, I ended up down in San Diego where I was doing some playing, doing some coaching, and working in a gym all at the same time. And that was kind of how I was able to make some money, is kind of a lot of different pieces together. Okay. And that was my first taste of working in a gym. And in that experience, I learned that I loved the atmosphere. I loved the idea of helping people get fit, get in shape, because that was kind of all I did, right? Sure. But I realized pretty quickly that, I'm not sure what the statistic is, but it's close to like 87% of people who have a gym membership never go. Sure. So there was this disconnect that I was trying to help people, and I was close, and they would sign up, and I would be pumped for them, and I'm like, all right, I'll see you next week. And like, I'd never see them again. And so I was just, I didn't feel fulfilled. And I felt like there's got to be something else, a better way to do this. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I knew I didn't really like the position. And, ever since, practically high school, I've been so disciplined on training and sacrificing so many different things. It was like, let me go just be crazy for a while, right? Let me do something different. So, sure enough, I bought a one-way ticket to Peru. I sold everything I had. I gave the rest away to the janitor at the gym and sent my big, bulky computer back home to my folks, and off I went. And so I traveled around for about 9 months, bought that one-way ticket to Peru, flew back to Seattle from Egypt, to give you an idea that I was kind of all over the place. Sure. And when I got back, I realized from my trip that I had seen amazing places and met amazing people, and I really wanted to make an impact on the world. I wanted to do something great. I didn't know what it was still at the time. And so when I got back, it was like kind of this depression, like, what am I going to do now? I didn't want to go back to a gym, but kind of like fitness and movement were really my passions and what I knew. So eventually I took a job as an independent trainer. Okay. And what year would this be? Oh man, this is, 8-9 years ago. Okay. At a gym on the top of Queen Anne, just a family-owned gym. And through that experience, pretty quickly, one of my first clients, I was able to help her with a pretty dramatic transformation. I said, wow, this is how you connect with somebody. This is how you get them in there. Need a little bit more accountability than just kind of this gym experience. Yeah. And from there, it's really built up to now, fast forward to today, we've got 9 locations, nearly 40 plus employees, 1,000 clients through all the locations. And I've kind of developed 2 different experiences for people under the big umbrella of movement. Is kind of like our philosophy, is get people moving in a fun, safe, non-intimidating way. Sure. And so we do one-on-one private training, and that's just, self-explanatory, get folks moving, connect them with one of the coaches. And then we do our boot camp, which is group personal training. And that's, kind of more of a group mentality. So it's fun, it's high energy, the music's going, people are high-fiving, and so that's the experience there. Okay. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So obviously there's lots of different, kind of styles of I don't want to say gym membership, but there's, the kind of the boot camp style, the CrossFit, the, personal trainer stuff, and, a whole bunch of different stuff. What could you make a comparison of what, maybe the average person may understand, like? Sure. Yeah. So, first of all, to differentiate us between CrossFit is in my opinion, is performance-based. They're going to help you perform better in a competition within that CrossFit box or against other competitors, and they're just via Olympic lifting and the style of the training, it's performance, you're going to be a better athlete. Our focus is more on results.
Sure.
So if you want to lose 10 pounds, 50 pounds, 75 pounds, 100 pounds, you want to burn some fat, you want to feel better, look better, have more energy, sleep better, that type of thing, that's more of our focus. Okay. In the process, sure, you might become a better athlete, but that's not really our focus. Our focus more is just on the results. Sure. And that's kind of how we set up the workouts and who our main demographic is as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. So you've been doing this, 8 years?
I think this fall is going to be 9 years.
9 years, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So did you start with one location? How did that kind of growth start? What was the initial response?
Good question. So I started at the family-owned gym at the top of Queen Anne just as an independent trainer, and pretty quickly I was like, I am getting very busy. There's not a whole lot of hours in the day, and realized, that for it to continue to grow, I would need some way to make it scale, and I couldn't do it on my own. I started the group stuff because the first summer came around. And everybody knows, like, once summer in Seattle, it's like you want to get outside. So I said, man, I'm going to lose all my clients. Everybody wants to go outside. So let me start an outside boot camp. So that was the first boot camp. Since then, we've transitioned back inside because nobody wants to step in dog poop in the park. And when it gets cold and rainy, it sucks to be outside. Yeah. So, but back at that time, I said, how can I scale this? And I had a buddy that I worked with in San Diego in the gym that I really like and really trust. I said, hey, move up to Seattle. Let's see if we can make something happen. So he came up and we ran it out of that Queen Anne facility. The owners of the gym also had a location in Laurelhurst. So then I spread myself out and had those 2 locations. And during that first year and a half, I had a fair amount of clients end up moving to Capitol Hill. And they said, hey, if you had something in Capitol Hill, we'd totally go. And I said, all right, I'll make it happen. Yeah. So I opened a Capitol Hill location. That was our first standalone location, which we still have today. It's our smallest. It's the, like all the things we've since learned in terms of the branding, how to lay the place out, and the size that we need, we did not take into account to that first one. But it's still, that's really where my heart is, because it was the first one we did. It was that first kind of leap. So that was the first one. Then we did Magnolia. Then kind of had a falling out with the owner of the gyms. I started to get kind of too big. I think it made him a little bit uncomfortable. And he said, hey, it's time for you to go. So I had to open a location in Queen Anne and Laurelhurst at the same time, which... imagine it was very stressful to do 2 at the same time, and I was getting married all within the kind of within 3 months. Yeah. So then I had those 2. Then we went to we opened up the West Seattle location, Green Lake, and then we did Normandy Park, and then we just recently opened Crown Hill and Lake City. And I'd broken a promise to myself. I said I was never going to do 2 again at the same time, but of course we just did. And I'll promise again now that I won't do that again, but who knows what will happen. Right. Sometimes the opportunity comes along and you just got to jump on it.
Right. Are you still do you still do classes yourself, or are you more like the business guy?
Yeah. So the title I've given myself now is Chief Motivating Officer. Okay. And so, my job really is to, and now it's about where it used to be really motivating and getting the clients like, hey, you can do this, give me your best type deal. Now that role has shifted to I perform that with my employees and with my team and try to develop them. How can I get them to be just better people and better high performers, so that can kind of drip over into the clients that they're working with. I still, I personally do like Spartan races. So I have a couple clients that like to participate in Spartan races, and so we'll work out together. And then we have a big team meeting once a month. And beforehand, I'll run a group training session with all the team. So that still gives me my fix, because I'm still a trainer at heart, you know what I mean? Sure. So that still gives me my fix to get that interaction and get people moving around. And then lastly, I do have like a higher level coaching program that gets access to me personally in my inner circle program, where I'll work with people individually. But that's kind of a separate organization than Ian Fitness, although it's still Ian and Fitness. But yeah.
Okay. So with kind of a unique model that you guys have, how do you go about choosing the right trainers that fits what you're looking for?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there's I've had the opportunity to make a lot of mistakes and learn from a lot of mistakes along the way. Sure. But there's basically kind of 2 approaches from it. There's the trainer out there that has that went to school, has like some biology degrees and exercise science degrees, and then got out of school and got 3 more certifications. And this guy or girl could take the human body apart and put it back together, no problem. And then there's this other person who went to school for something else and worked at a different gig, but man, they've got a really good personality, and they have this ability to connect with people, make them feel comfortable, make them feel excited. And the issue that I've come up with, because initially I said, hey, the more certifications, the better trainer you are. But unfortunately, it's not always true, because that person, it's certainly possible, and I've seen it, that this person has a hard time connecting with people, and they use, scientific language that the client doesn't understand, because at the end of the day, Mrs. Jones just wants to look better and she wants to feel better in her bathing suit. And if we're talking about specific muscle groups and all these different stretches, it's over her head, and she really just doesn't care. She wants somebody to make her feel comfortable, make somebody that has that can provide an environment that feels good to be in, and that she's having fun, and at the same time she's getting some results. And so that person that can provide that experience, I can teach them that other stuff. I can teach them the technical side of it, or they can learn it. But the person who has that technical stuff and doesn't have the personality, that's harder to teach. So what I've done is focused on, hey, are these good people, and can they learn these other skills? And that's kind of how we put our emphasis in terms of bringing people along. And then I'll add one other thing is, some of our best coaches have come from being clients in our program. They know our culture, they know how we want things to be done, and they've bought in like nobody else, because they've lost 40 pounds. And they're like, this place is awesome, this stuff works, I know it. And then when they flip around, they can share that experience, enthusiasm with other people when it's awesome, right? It's so authentic,
That's great. With where you're at now, what do you love most about what you do in your business?
Just I love the transformations. I love seeing people, and it's not just weight loss, but it's the kind of like the rebirth of people, like either once they've lost the weight, or even, maybe they just feel better, but it's just like this extra confidence and ability that they feel like they have to go and tackle anything else. And it's interesting, is it like the chicken or the egg, that they've got that and then it makes them be able to lose weight, or is it they've lost weight and they can do that? But either way, that's my favorite part about it. That's what keeps it going. And reading the testimonials and seeing the changes in people's bodies and what they're able to do, that's what it's all about for me.
When you first started in fitness, what was the most surprising or unexpected aspect of starting your own business?
Oh man, the most surprising. It's a good question. There's been a lot of surprises along the way, for sure. I think it was, because me as an athlete and coming from an athletic background, I love to work out. I love it. It's great. I love that feeling of my lungs burning, and I'm so tired, and oh man, am I going to throw up? I need a drink of water. I'm going to do a few more. I love it. And that is not normal. You know what I mean? So the big surprise for me was what do you mean you don't want to come in today? What do you mean? It was hard for me to understand at first. And I've come to understand that hey, and I've actually grown older, and now I have a family. I have a newborn at home. She's, almost 6 months. And, last night I was up from, 2 to 4. And I get it why you might not want to go to the 6:15 a.m. workout in the morning, you know what I mean? And it's made me a better coach and a better trainer along the way. But those were one of the initial surprises, because it was just me. I just got back from this big trip and this great experience, and working. And all my associations of exercise and working out were super fun. And it took a couple. There's a learning curve for me to understand that it wasn't like that for everybody.
Okay. Moving from kind of the business to a little more on the personal side of things. How do you start each day?
So for me, I have two kind of mantras. One of them is win your Monday, and the same principle goes for winning your morning. So the way I start my day is I'll get the alarm up to get up, and winning your battle with your alarm clock for me is crucial. If you win that battle with your alarm clock, you're setting the tone for your day within your subconscious as well, that this is important to me. Too many people hit the snooze button, and they're not just hitting snooze on the alarm, but they're hitting snooze on their goals and their relationships and their professional growth and their fitness and all these different things. And if you can't win that first battle with your alarm clock, how can you then be expected to win the battle with the snacks in the office, or win the battle of go to your exercise training or not? All these different things. And I think it really sets the tone for that first victory, because if you have that first victory, you can have more of them. So I win that battle, and then I'll jump on the computer and address any fires that need to get put out. Get the oldest kid up for school and get him breakfast, get him to the bus, and then I go into the HQ and we'll have a meeting with kind of the upper level management folks, address anything that gets addressed, and that experience is more any questions that they have that's preventing them to get to the next level. Get that all the way, and then I'll go do my workout. And that's kind of my ideal start to every morning. It's not necessarily that way every time, but more times than not, that's how I start it.
Okay. What would you consider your greatest strength to be?
Persistence. I would say persistence, determination, relentlessness, all of them package it into one. It's like, I don't know, might apply to other people, but I never feel like it applies to me.
Sure.
So I think that is really a key for success, whether it's fitness, business, education, anything. It's just, you just keep going.
Sure.
Yeah.
You seem pretty motivated.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, what's one habit that you wish you had?
One habit I wish I had? I'd like to be able to meditate. I know a lot of folks talk about, there's some good apps out there and help kind of clear the head. I have a hard, my head, I always have ideas going,
Sure.
right?
Things are always turning.
There's all, and especially with the size of the business is growing with 9 locations, 40 plus employees. How can I help this person do a little better? How can this location improve in this way? How can I reach more people? How can I help people on a deeper level? Because sometimes it can be hard for me to turn it off.
Sure.
Yeah.
What have you found to be the most challenging aspect of owning and running your own business?
Yeah. Probably the most challenging is the compliance factor as we grow. So as we scale, if it's, it's one of those things, if it's just me and say one other coach, I could help transport all my knowledge in ways that I know that are going to work and be effective to one person, and it'd be really smooth.
Mm-hmm.
But as kind of that game of telephone happens, then there's a little bit more of a disconnect. And so that's the challenge is if I can just get one-on-one with somebody and knock down all this knowledge to them, and hey, here's how you do all these different procedures, and this is what you do when this comes up, we'd be more effective. But that's the challenge, is how do I get that knowledge across and that training across when we're bigger.
Sure.
And kind of scaling that.
Sure. Have you kind of come up with a solution for being able to do that?
Yeah. So it's, I hired a regional manager. It was the first one, right? So it's like, hey, maybe managing 30 plus employees on my own is too much, right? So can I get into one, and he manages the managers of each location, and then they trickle down that knowledge.
Okay.
So that's kind of that's the flow of it, and it's, how well it's working is the next question. Okay. And, we do, as I mentioned, every month we do one all hands meeting. So I get a chance to see everybody and coach on a different topic, like, hey, here's how you should structure your morning to get a lot done, or here's how you can do this to be more effective, or here's how you can have a more positive mindset, and then hopefully kind of reaching them on a deeper level.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you have any examples of success stories, from clients that may have tried the traditional gym membership and it didn't work out?
Yeah, for sure. It's one of my first ones, and it's one I think that because it happened has allowed me to be successful, because it kind of developed our avatar. So my best friend Nick that I grew up with, I've known the guy since I was 12, maybe 13 years old, and one of these type of friends that you go to each other's house all the time, and his mom is the sweetest woman you've ever met. You go over there, there's always a peanut butter jelly sandwich waiting for you, And as we got into high school, Nick's dad got sick and ended up passing away. And so Anna was taking care of Nick, his 2 sisters, and just dealing with all this grief. And, the last priority for her was fitness and staying in shape, right? So she got pretty deconditioned. And then as soon as I got started back in Seattle and had a couple clients, she reached out to me and was like, hey, thinking about, like maybe trying to get back in shape and doing some stuff. And in her mind, it was like, a month or 2 down the line. I was like, great, why don't you come in tomorrow and we'll chat? Didn't really take no for an answer. And I knew that Anna was just incredibly intimidated and nervous about the whole gym experience. In her head, it was all these really big beefcake guys working out and slamming the weights, and probably didn't have a shirt on and yelling and all this stuff. And so I knew right away that, I cared so much about her, and I wanted it to be perfect. And I knew that she needed an environment that made her feel safe and comfortable, and it was fun. And so everything from the music that was on, what people are wearing, how the place looks, the exercise we use, the words, where I'm standing when they're doing different exercises, all these parts play into it, right? And so she transformed. She lost a ton of weight. She got a lot of energy back. She was able to go out and do the gardening and do things that she liked doing and feel better about herself. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was so powerful because it was a close personal friend, Sure. It was a family friend. And from that, I've then been able to say, hey, when we open a space, how would Anna feel about this exercise? How would she feel about this piece of marketing? Mm-hmm. And it's been really cool to be able to kind of extend that as we move forward. But that's definitely one of my favorite transformations.
Okay,
yeah.
That's awesome. And did you grow up here in Seattle?
I did, yeah. I grew up in Green Lake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whether in business or personal or working out or whatever, what would you say is the best advice that you've ever received?
We hear all the time that knowledge is power, right? And I used to believe the same thing, but no longer. Action is power. Because if you can have all the knowledge in the world and just sit on it and do nothing. There's, you know, a million people out there who all have $1 million business idea, or who have, you know, all these ideas to change the world or make the world better and do all these great things, but it takes action for things to happen. And so whether it's fitness, just getting started, it doesn't matter. You could be doing the worst workout in the world, but if you do it consistently every day, you're going to get results, right? Sure. And the same goes for business. If you just take action and you just get started on it, that's going to be a big key for success. I'm an awful speller. I'm horrible at grammar, you know, all these different things. But I'll send an email out every day to my list because, you know, they're looking for it. But if I waited till it was perfect, it would never get done, you know. And so it's like I just take action and I get it done and I make it happen. It doesn't work every single time, but, you know, I do it enough that I'll find some success. So that would be the one thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, you know, as we kind of wrap up here, do you listen to podcasts?
Do I listen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite podcasts?
Yeah, I like Tim Ferriss's podcast. It's great. I listen to Lewis Howe's School of Greatness. Yep. I'm blanking on the other gentleman's name, the fitness preacher. His name is, oh man, it's funny. I see an ad on from Facebook like every day. He's stalking me on the internet. But yeah, so I'll bounce around on a few, and it's, for me, it's not necessarily I chase who the guest is versus kind of who's doing it. Because if I feel like there's some, you know, content for me. But Tim Ferriss is always interesting because it's always some sort of hack on how to do something better, and it's interesting to kind of see different people's perspective. Right,
and then that's kind of the format of those is, you know, like who are the guests, what's the topic that interests you, you kind of skip around. I mean, it'd be a full-time job to like actually keep up on all those podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. If you could recommend just one book to our listeners, what would it be?
Yeah, one book for business wise, or just in general?
Business.
I really felt like How to Win Friends and Influence People was pretty influential for me. Okay. Just the kind of the mindset shift from if I want something from you, what's in it for you? You know, like, and it applies to almost everything in life, right? Like if you're trying to get somebody to do something, or you want somebody to do something, or you even want to help somebody, you know, if you can frame it so that it has their interest at heart, and then it helps you along the way, you know, you're gonna get a lot more stuff done in general, and people will stay happy, I think. Sure. With the interaction or the experience. Yeah,
I like that. Can you share with us one piece of parting guidance?
One piece of parting guidance. When people sign up for a program, we send them a handwritten letter in the mail, and in the mail is a little pendant that I think I'm keeping one woman in Britain on Etsy, financing her, her entire life. But it says, "Never, never, never give up." And for me, that's, there's been ups and downs in the businesses. There's been ups and downs when I was like chasing my dream for soccer. Sure. And I know everybody has had an experience where, odds are stacked against them. And we all love that story where the odds are stacked against them and they keep going. And the key really is just not to give up. And so I would just say, and that kind of comes back, I think, to the persistence, relentlessness, determination, and just kind of going for it.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's good. If any of our listeners, feel inspired, by your story and want to check out what you're doing, what's the best way for them to connect with that?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook, of course, /Ian Fitness. You can follow me on Instagram, also Ian Fitness. Some more kind of behind the scenes fun stuff on Instagram. Might see me dancing around with the baby in the backyard or something. Yeah. And then of course email as well, ian@ianfitness.com.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for your time, Ian. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great.
All right.
That wraps up this week's episode. Make sure to check out our guest website, pay them a visit, and otherwise support what they're doing. If you have questions, know someone who should be a guest here, or has a story worth sharing, email me at christianharris@seatown.com. That's sea-town.com. I would also be honored if you could go to iTunes and leave us a review and a nice 5-star rating. We work hard to bring on great guests and provide exceptional content, and getting a review from you is one way to help the podcast rank well on iTunes so others can find and enjoy the show as well. You can also find out more about me, how my real estate indie brokerage and our unconventional approach can help you with your Seattle and Eastside real estate needs, and other projects I'm working on by visiting seatown.com. That's sea-town.com. Thanks for listening. Today's intro and outro music is courtesy of the Fascination Movement. You can find their albums in the iTunes store. The Seatown podcast creator and host is Christian Harris. You can listen to more episodes and find all our show notes on our website at seatownpodcast.com. That's sea-townpodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in a week for our next episode. This has been a Seatown Media production.